Growing up with no friends does not always look dramatic. There is often no single traumatic moment, no clear rejection scene, no obvious turning point. Instead, there is a long, quiet absence. An absence of shared laughter, an absence of being chosen, an absence of mirrors that tell you who you are. For many people, loneliness did not begin in adulthood. It was simply the background noise of childhood. When a child grows up without friends, the mind adapts. It has to. Human psychology is not passive. When a need is not met, the mind finds another way to survive. And friendship is not just social decoration, it is how identity is formed. Friends reflect us back to ourselves. They tell us what is normal, what is acceptable, what is valued. Without that reflection, the self develops differently. Children with friends learn who they are through interaction. Children without friends learn who they are through observation. They watch others from the outside. They notice patterns. They become highly attuned to social dynamics they are not part of. This often creates a deep sense of self-awareness, but also a persistent feeling of being separate. Not rejected, just not included. Over time, this separation shapes the inner world. Many people who grew up without friends develop a rich internal life. They think a lot. They imagine scenarios. They replay conversations that never happened. The mind becomes both a refuge and a trap. Because when the outer world feels inaccessible, the inner world becomes home. This can lead to strong independence. People who grew up alone often learn to rely on themselves early. They become self-sufficient, introspective, and emotionally contained. They do not expect support, because expecting it once led to disappointment. So they stop expecting. From the outside, this can look like strength. On the inside, it is often adaptation. One of the most common psychological patterns is emotional self-regulation through withdrawal. When connection feels uncertain, withdrawal feels safe. Not because solitude is preferred, but because it is predictable. Solitude does not reject you. It does not misunderstand you. It does not leave. Over time, the nervous system learns something subtle. Connection equals risk. Distance equals control. This belief does not form consciously. It settles quietly into the body. Later in life, it can show up as difficulty forming close relationships, even when the desire for connection is strong. People who grew up with no friends often want connection deeply. But they do not trust it. They may overanalyze social interactions. They may assume rejection before it happens. They may leave relationships emotionally before anyone else can. This is not manipulation. It is self-protection learned early. Another common pattern is hyper-self-reliance. When no one comes to sit next to you, you learn to sit with yourself. When no one asks how you are, you stop expecting the question. Eventually, needing others feels uncomfortable. Dependence feels dangerous. Vulnerability feels exposed. At the same time, many people from this background develop high empathy. Because they know what it feels like to be unseen. They notice quiet people. They sense emotional shifts. They understand isolation intuitively, yet paradoxically, they may struggle to let others see them. They know how to observe pain. They do not know how to share it. There is also grief, often unacknowledged. Not grief for something lost, but grief for something never experienced. Sleepovers that never happened, inside jokes that never formed. Being someone's best friend. This grief has no clear shape, so it often remains unprocessed. It lingers as a vague sadness, a sense of something missing without knowing what. In adulthood, this history can manifest in different ways. Some people remain solitary by choice. They build meaningful lives alone and feel at peace. Others crave connection but feel stuck, as if everyone else learned a language they never did. Neither path is inherently wrong. What matters is awareness. One of the most painful misconceptions is that people who grew up without friends are socially broken. They are not. They are socially adapted to a different environment. An environment where connection was scarce, where observation replaced participation, where safety meant emotional distance. These adaptations made sense once. They just may not serve the present anymore. Healing does not mean forcing extroversion. It does not mean suddenly becoming socially confident. It means slowly updating the nervous system, learning that connection can be imperfect and still safe. That misunderstanding does not always equal rejection. That silence does not always mean abandonment. For many, healing begins with one safe connection. Not a group, not popularity, just one relationship where presence is consistent, where absence is explained, where mistakes do not lead to disappearance. Consistency rewires what loneliness taught. Self-compassion is also essential. People who grew up alone often blame themselves. They assume something was wrong with them. But children do not choose isolation. They respond to circumstances, environments, and chance. Loneliness was not a personal failure. It was a context. Understanding this changes the narrative. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" the question becomes, "What did I learn in order to survive?" And survival learning can be unlearned, gently. People who grew up with no friends often carry quiet strengths: depth, sensitivity, inner stability, the ability to be alone without collapsing. These are not flaws, they are foundations. When combined with safe connection, they create relationships that are thoughtful, loyal, and real. The goal is not to rewrite the past. The goal is to stop living as if the past is still happening, to recognize when old defenses are active, to notice when withdrawal is automatic, to choose connection slowly, consciously, and safely. Some people never talk about growing up friendless. They assume no one would understand, or that it sounds trivial, but loneliness shapes the psyche deeply, even when it is quiet. Especially when it is quiet. If this reflection feels familiar, know that you are not broken. You adapted, and adaptation can evolve. Connection does not have to be loud, it does not have to be many. Sometimes it begins with simply allowing yourself to be seen, a little, without disappearing. If this reflection resonated with you, and you value quiet, honest explorations of the inner world, consider subscribing to The Inner Observer. Here, we observe the mind without judgment and explore human experience slowly, thoughtfully, and deeply. Thank you for watching, and take a moment before moving on.